It's not always tears. Sometimes depression looks like overworking, overthinking, overhelping. It's the friend who laughs the loudest, right before they go home to deafening silence. It's the colleague who never misses a deadline, but hasn't felt a moment of real joy in months. This isn't a story about sadness. It's a story about the silent signals most people miss, especially in themselves. You think you're just tired. You think you're just being productive. But what if your habits are quietly screaming something else? What if the very things you do to cope are the same things that are keeping you trapped? We've been taught that depression is a visible storm, a downpour of tears, an inability to get out of bed. But for many, it's a quiet, creeping fog. It doesn't announce itself. It camouflages itself as normal behavior, hiding in the plain sight of our daily routines. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on 8 of these hidden habits. Not to label, not to diagnose, but to understand. Because sometimes, the first step to finding the light is realizing you've been living in the dark. The lie. You're just a kind, empathetic person. You're the one everyone can count on. The truth. You're not just being kind. You're using the problems of others as a shield to avoid your own. Your empathy has become a form of escape. By focusing all your energy on fixing everyone else, you never have to confront the emptiness you feel when you're alone. It's a noble distraction, but a distraction nonetheless. The psychological mechanism. This is a classic case of emotional displacement. You're taking the uncomfortable feelings you have about your own life, the sadness, the anxiety, the sense of worthlessness, and redirecting them towards something you feel you can control. Someone else's happiness. It provides a temporary sense of purpose and validation, but it's a borrowed feeling, and it leads to helper's fatigue, a state of emotional exhaustion that leaves you more depleted than before. The silent impact. This habit creates a vicious cycle. The more you help others, the more people come to you for help. You become so enmeshed in their lives that you lose sight of your own. Your self-worth becomes tied to your ability to be a savior. And when you can't fix someone, you feel like a failure. It's a quiet, respectable way to abandon yourself. The lie. I'm just being productive. I have a strong work ethic. I'm ambitious. The truth. You're not just being productive. You're using busyness as a numbing agent. You're running from the discomfort of stillness. The moment you stop moving, the thoughts you've been trying to outrun catch up to you. The silence is too loud, so you fill it with tasks, deadlines, and obligations. The psychological mechanism. This is what's known as a dopamine regulation avoidance cycle. Your brain is seeking the small, predictable hits of dopamine that come from completing tasks. It's a low-cost, low-reward loop that keeps you feeling like you're accomplishing something, while preventing you from engaging in activities that provide deeper, more meaningful satisfaction. You're choosing the predictable buzz of productivity over the unpredictable and often uncomfortable work of emotional processing. The silent impact. Chronic busyness leads to burnout, but it's a specific kind of burnout, one that feels hollow and meaningless. You're exhausted, but you have nothing to show for it in terms of genuine fulfillment. You've built a life that looks impressive from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. Your busyness is a cage you've built for yourself, one that keeps you from ever having to ask the question, am I happy? The lie. You're just funny and self-aware. You have a dark sense of humor. The truth. Your humor has become a form of armor. You're using jokes to test the waters, to see if anyone will notice the pain behind the punchline. You're saying, I'm hurting, in the only way you know how, a way that allows you to immediately retreat if no one responds with the concern you are secretly craving. The psychological mechanism. This is a defense mechanism known as deflection. You're acknowledging your pain, but you're doing it in a way that robs it of its seriousness. It's a form of psychological distancing. By turning your trauma into a joke, you create a space between yourself and the raw emotion of it. It's a way of screaming for help in a whisper. The silent impact. When people laugh at your jokes, it reinforces the idea that your pain is not to be taken seriously. It teaches you that your suffering is only palatable to others when it's entertaining. This creates a profound sense of isolation. You're surrounded by people, but you feel completely and utterly alone because no one is seeing the real you. The you that isn't laughing. The lie. I'm just organized. I like to be prepared. The truth. Your planning isn't about organization, it's about control. Your inner world feels so chaotic and unpredictable that you're desperately trying to impose order on your outer world. You believe that if you can just create the perfect plan, you can avoid the messiness of your own emotions. The psychological mechanism. This is a manifestation of anxiety-driven control-seeking. When you feel powerless over your emotions, you seek to exert power over your environment. The act of planning provides a temporary illusion of certainty in a life that feels deeply uncertain. It's a way of telling yourself, if I can control my schedule, I can control my feelings. The silent impact. This habit creates a rigid, inflexible life. You become so attached to your plans that any deviation from them feels like a personal failure. There's no room for spontaneity, for joy, for the beautiful, messy unpredictability of being human. Your life becomes a series of checkboxes, and you're so focused on ticking them off that you forget to actually live. The lie. I'm just messy. I'm too busy to clean. The truth. Your physical environment is a reflection of your internal state. The mess isn't a sign of laziness, it's a sign of exhaustion. You don't have the mental or emotional energy to care for your space because you're using all your energy just to get through the day. The clutter on the outside is a mirror of the clutter on the inside. The psychological mechanism. This is related to a concept called anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure in normally pleasurable activities. The small sense of satisfaction that comes from a clean room is no longer accessible to you. Your brain's reward system is offline. It's also a sign of diminished executive function, a core symptom of depression that affects your ability to initiate and complete tasks. The silent impact. Living in a messy, chaotic environment reinforces feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness. It's a constant physical reminder that things are not okay. It creates a feedback loop. You feel bad, so you don't clean, and then you feel bad because you're living in a mess. It's a quiet, physical manifestation of giving up. The lie. I'm just treating myself. I deserve it. The truth. You're not treating yourself. You're medicating yourself. You're using the temporary high of a purchase to fill a void that feels bottomless. It's not about the things you're buying. It's about the fleeting moment of excitement in an otherwise gray and monotonous emotional landscape. The psychological mechanism. This is another form of dopamine-seeking behavior, similar to chronic busyness. The act of buying triggers a release of dopamine in the brain, providing a short-lived sense of pleasure and reward. It's a form of emotional regulation, albeit a dysfunctional one. You're using an external stimulus to manage an internal state. The silent impact. This habit often leads to financial stress, which in turn exacerbates feelings of depression and anxiety. The guilt and shame that follow a spending binge can be even more damaging than the initial sadness you were trying to escape. It's a short-term solution that creates a long-term problem, leaving you with a closet full of things you don't need and a heart full of regret.
The lie. I'm just relaxing. I need to unwind after a long day. The truth. You're not just relaxing. You're dissociating. You're using stories, games, and virtual worlds to escape from your own reality. It's not about entertainment. It's about oblivion. You re-choosing to live in someone else's world because you can't bear to live in your own. The psychological mechanism. This is a form of cognitive avoidance. You're actively trying to suppress your own thoughts and feelings by overwhelming your brain with external stimuli. It's a way of keeping your mind so occupied that it doesn't have a chance to wander into the dark corners you're so afraid of. It's a temporary anesthetic for chronic pain. The silent impact. While a little escapism is healthy, excessive escapism robs you of your life. You're trading your precious, finite hours for a passive, second-hand experience. It prevents you from engaging with your own life, from solving your own problems, from creating your own story. You're a spectator in the one life you're supposed to be starring in. The lie, I'm just stressed. I have a short temper. The truth, your anger is a mask for your sadness. It's often easier to feel angry than it is to feel hurt or vulnerable. Anger feels powerful. Sadness feels weak. You're using rage as a way to push people away, to keep them from getting close enough to see the pain you're really in. The psychological mechanism, this is often referred to as externalizing depression. Instead of internalizing your pain, you're projecting it outward. The emotional energy of depression is still there, but it's being expressed as frustration, impatience, and hostility. It's particularly common in men who are often socialized to believe that anger is a more acceptable emotion than sadness. But the silent impact. This habit damages your relationships. It pushes away the very people who could be your support system. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You feel alone, so you act in a way that makes people leave you, which in turn confirms your belief that you're alone. It's a cry for help that sounds like a threat. Depression doesn't always ask for help, but sometimes it just hides behind habits that make you look okay. It's the quiet, persistent hum of "I'm fine" when you're anything but. Not every habit means depression, but when several overlap and persist, they tell a story the mind refuses to say aloud. A story of quiet survival. If you recognized yourself in any of these habits, the first step is not judgment. It's curiosity. It's compassion. It's the gentle acknowledgement that you've been carrying a heavy weight and you've been doing it in silence. You're not broken, you're surviving. But survival isn't the same as living. These signs don't mean you're weak. They mean you're human. They are the ingenious, albeit painful, ways your mind has tried to protect you. Awareness is the first cure. It's the moment you stop running and finally turn to face the fog. And in that moment, you realize you have a choice. You can continue to let these habits rule you, or you can begin the slow, courageous work of reclaiming yourself. It starts with a single, quiet question. What do I really need? If you found yourself in any of these signs, pause, not to judge, but to understand. You're not alone in this. On this channel, we talk about the truths most people hide about the mind, the self, and the world. So if that's what you seek, subscribe and stay curious. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and awareness purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional medical advice or therapy. If you or someone you know may be struggling with depression, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional.